Now we're ready to handle payment intents in our front-end UI. In our payments component here, we have a form input where the user can enter an amount, which will be a Stripe amount in cents. After clicking Ready to Pay, it will send a request to the backend to create a payment intent on the server. You can think of a payment intent as a session, and the session will go through a number of different state changes. The initial state is requires payment method, so we have the intent, and now we need to attach a credit card or some other payment method to it. At this point in the course, we don't have authenticated users or existing customers or anything like that, so we need to create a new payment method from scratch. However, in the next section of this course, we'll learn how to save a card on a customer's account so they can use it at a later date or use it for multiple purchases without having to re-enter their card details every time. The next step is to collect the user's card details, which we'll do here with Stripe Elements, which is a pre-built UI component that will automatically validate the card. We'll then send the payment method and the payment intent together off to Stripe, which will try to charge the card. If it's successful, the payment intent will go to a state of succeeded. However, there are some cards now, especially in the EU, that require 3D secure, strong customer authentication. If Stripe is unable to charge the card, it will come back requiring additional verification, in which case Stripe will automatically pull up a pop-up window here with the user's bank. This requires the user to log in with a third-party credit card or bank and verify the purchase. Inside of our payments component, we'll import React as well as useState and the fetch from API helper that we defined in the last section. And then from Stripe, we can import the card element, which is a pre-built component that handles the credit card input. At the top of our payments component, we'll use the hooks to reference Stripe as well as Stripe elements. For the state of this component, we'll define an amount, which is the amount the user wants to pay, as well as a payment intent, which is the actual response we get from our API with the payment intent object. In the UI, we have a form input that will change the amount whenever the value is changed. And we'll disable this input if the payment intent exists, because that means that the user has locked into an amount that is assigned to a payment intent. It is possible to update a payment intent after the fact, but that's an extra feature probably not needed in most situations, so we're not going to be implementing it in this course. Below our form input, we'll create a button that triggers the actual creation of the payment intent. Now the actual text of the button will calculate the amount in dollars, and we can do that by dividing the amount by 100, because remember it's denominated in cents. And then we'll set it to a fixed value of 2 decimal places. So now we'll implement the create payment intent click handler. This is an async function, and first it will validate the amount to make sure that it's no less than 50 and no greater than 99,000. These are the minimum and maximum payment amounts that you can send to Stripe. After that, we make a call to our backend using fetch from API, this time to the payments endpoint. The endpoint is expecting a body with the amount of the payment intent. When we get the payment intent back from the API, we'll go ahead and set it here on the component. So now that we have a payment intent created, we need to collect the user's card information or payment method. Back down in the HTML, we'll start by creating a form that has an onSubmit event that will handle once the user's card details are submitted. In React, it's extremely easy to implement the card because we can simply declare the card element component that we get from Stripe. And it is possible to customize this component by passing in your own custom CSS here. Now, after the user has entered their card details, we'll add a button that will submit the form and trigger the payment with Stripe. The final step is to handle the submission of that form. First, we'll prevent default so the browser doesn't redirect to a new page when the form is submitted. Then we can grab the actual card element by calling elements getElement with that component name. Once we have the card, we'll call await Stripe confirm payment. This method takes the payment intent client secret that we got from our server, and then the payment method is a card equal to the card element. This tells Stripe to take this credit card and apply it to the payment intent. And by default, it will attempt to charge that payment intent right away, with the return value being an updated payment intent, which we can destructure and we'll rename it to updated payment intent just to make that clear. It's also worth noting that if there's an error, then Stripe will return a new payment intent on the error object. But in either case, we'll want to update the state of the component with the new payment intent details. And that's all there is to it. Stripe handles everything else in between, so you can show the user a confirmation page or an error page depending on what happened here.